Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Katie, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Gotchel?
Here.
Councilman Duran?
Here.
Councilman Jackson?
Here.
Councilman Looper?
Here.
Councilwoman Camp?
Here.
Councilman Tucker?
Here.
Mayor Nichols?
Here. And council, you can see on your agenda tonight, which I will read after our strategic planning session, we came up with a mission statement, and the mission of the city of Craig is providing exceptional service, enhancing quality of life, and preserving our cultural values while investing for the future. So we will be seeing that more prominently around to remind us in everything that we do, from budgeting to decisions that we make. I'd like to call the May 13th, 2025 Craig City Council regular meeting to order. Item number 1, consent agenda. We have 3 items. Approval of the minutes from April 22nd, 2025 regular meeting. Approval of the bills through May 8th, 2025 in the amount of $875,786.47. Item C, approval of a reassignment of janitorial services and commercial cleaning contract from All Natural of Yampa Valley Incorporated to Yampa Valley Property Services LLC.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Councilmember Looper made a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, second by Councilwoman Camp. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have an agenda, consent agenda has been approved. Item 2, agenda approval.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to remove item 3A, presentations, Police Chief Michael Cochran to present to retired Sergeant Corey Wagner due to Sergeant Wagner not being able to attend.
Second.
Second. All right, Councilmember Duran made a motion to amend the agenda to eliminate item 3, presentations, due to Sergeant Corey Wagner unable to attend, second by Councilmember Tucker. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alrighty, we have an agenda.
Actually, Mayor, I think now we need to motion to approve the amended agenda. That's correct.
Okay,
I forget that as well at times
okay.
on, and,
So she caught me at her one stint as mayor, see?
first wife, is
Okay.
correct.
All right, so we approved the amendment, the deletion of that. Now we need to approve the amended agenda.
So I will move we approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Councilwoman Camp made a motion to approve the amended agenda, second by Councilmember Looper. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we have an amended agenda. Okay. Item 4, or new 3 now, City Manager Report. Mr. Brixis.
Came around quick. Okay, so I think you've received my report. Just wanted to touch on a couple of things here. I covered a lot about the Energy Communities Alliance Forum that the mayor and I attended April 22nd, 24. And incredibly interesting, some of the new power technologies for power generation that are coming out of that industry. And Idaho Falls is a really interesting place in that they have that whole community is built around that national lab, it seems. And of course, the positions that they employ there are generally pretty high paid: engineers, project managers, certified welders, fabricators, reactor operators in some cases, technicians, regulatory and compliance professionals. And so it's we got to meet a lot of host companies that were at the meeting, and there were a lot of communities there. We met the mayor of Kemmerer. Of course, that's where that Natrona cooled reactor is being put up in Wyoming. We also met the legislator who lives in Rollins. He's retired now, and he passed a piece of legislation that allowed that particular nuclear project in Wyoming to happen. And so he, really interesting guy, always interested in being a part of a discussion wherever he can. But so anyway, from that standpoint, it was, well, as you can see from my report, it was pretty extensive, but it was quite interesting. I wanted to touch on the golf course discussion. Councilman Tucker had also brought in with the golf board here in the past week. And we talked about some of the flooding that's happening there, and I think we have some generally good ideas about maybe directions. Carl, you might be able to elaborate a little more, but it looked like there was a couple of potential areas and some survey shots that we would be taking to kind of get an idea of where and what to do out there.
Yeah, so SGM is going to be performing some survey work this week to help get some elevations, and there are a couple ideas about possibly changing the inlet to that slough, that pond by the golf course, and also potentially changing the overflow drain line from that slough. So there are a couple ideas out there, but they need to have a little bit of engineering and a little bit of field work to figure it out.
So that's underway.
It's underway.
Yeah. We also, Clerk Carmody had put together a meeting with Pinnacle Workmen's Compensation Coverage, and we're looking for ways to get our mod rating, which has been actually growing and increasing, which is not a good thing. You want a low mod rating in order to keep your premiums low, as any of you who run businesses know. And so we had some great strategy sessions with Pinnacle and discussions about next steps. And of course, the folks in the HR department and the committee, the safety committee, are working on actually developing some good strategies internally from an awareness standpoint, as well as a implementation standpoint for monitoring our safety activities. So our objective is to get that mod rating down to improve our premiums, which have been growing over the past couple of years, and get those. Our mod rating, we want below 1. I think it's 1.35 or something like that. And that's the last couple of years we've gone the wrong direction there. We also have been working, thanks to our finance director. She identified a banking bill credit problem that we have with the regional solar garden out east of town. The field is operating perfectly. I mean, it's producing the credits, and our meters, unfortunately, are not receiving all the credits and so they're getting banked by Yampa Valley Electric. And this is, it seems to be a consistent issue with all the other 5 partners as well as us. And so, of course, we're the fiscal agent on that grant, and so we're working through a change or an amendment to the bill credit agreement that would allow us to receive the payments from Yampa Valley Electric because we're we're selling them the kilowatt hours, and so we would just get paid for what we sold and not have to tie those to a meter directly, get a quarterly payment from Yampa Valley Electric to keep us on track. We'll also have another agreement that'll be coming to the mayor here that we'll have to sign to true up, because right now we have $21,000 in banked credits that we haven't gotten or been able to apply. And so those credits, once we figure out the true up by end of June, we plan on initiating the new process of payments through that field, and also of truing up our banked credits, so we get payment for those. I think I had a number of other things, but unless you had any questions, that's what I'll cover tonight.
Okay. Very well. Questions? Peter? Okay, hearing none, thank you. Council reports. Michelle, we'll start with you.
I attended the Years of Service celebration. I think that went very well. Thank you, Katie, and everyone that put that on. I participated in the Where the Hell's Maybell bike ride on May 3rd. I did attend a couple CTC meetings and work groups, one of which they're gathering content to kick off their Facebook page. The other one, they're wrapping up. I had mentioned they had done a safe spaces survey for the youth in the community, and now they're working on the second part of that, where they've identified the top 2 and the bottom 2 locations identified as safe and unsafe. And now we'll dive into why the youth feel that those places are safe or unsafe. I attended today's Craig Housing Authority meeting. I've got the Suicide Prevention Coalition meeting on Thursday, library board meeting next week. Cashed in my landfill voucher. Thank you for that. And that is it.
Okay. Darren?
Yeah, I've also attended the employee appreciation celebration, so thanks to Shane and Katie and Mindy and everyone involved who put that on. Able to celebrate employees that have just started with us, up to 39 years have been with us, so that was pretty neat. Good to put names with faces with the new people that I haven't been able to meet yet, so thanks for the invite to council. I was able to help with the Craig Middle School track meet a couple weeks ago. Fun event. Attended the Sombrero Ranch horse drive. Lived here my whole life, and that was the second time I've done that, so that was good. Then it took me about an hour and a half to get home. So, that was good too. Last week, I attended a meeting with the county along with Peter and Chris, an introductory kickoff meeting for the Community Trust Fund establishment. The Taft Law Firm, who we selected as the law firm to set up the fund, they zoomed in and just kind of gave us their initial steps, their initial schedule, and some ideas. Sounds like they're going to be pretty aggressive on it, and they think that they can have this fund set up by the end of July, which is good. So moving forward on that, Councilman Tucker and I attended a joint service meeting last week with Commissioner Booyer, as well as Shane Baker. Discussion there was talking about the trail from Boys and Girls Club to the Steamboat Transit Center and moving forward on that. County seemed to be in full support of it. Sounds like the next moves were that you were going to reach out and start working on a conceptual site plan. So Shane did a great job presenting some prelim budget numbers on what it would cost in-house to potentially build that trail, and just what it would do for the community from a safety aspect, and just as well as partnering with the county on that. So good discussions there. Continued talks on Loudy. Just an update. The water is working. Weeds have been sprayed. The second baseball field should be completed by June 1st. So they're putting money in there. And also today and tomorrow, they are actually taking out 14 to 15 trees. So especially where Whittle the Wood is, so that's kind of a safety concern from them. So I think the main thing is obviously the trees will be taken out, but the message to the community is that they do have money to go in and put 15 to 18 more new trees this year and continue that program to replant those trees out at Loudy. So good conversation with the county, lots of moving parts. We also discussed potentially having an LMD ex officio board meeting, which I know Katie kind of just went around and pulled the council on. The main reason on that was just to kind of get the ex officio board in the same room to talk the ballot initiative that's coming up, where we're at, who's taking lead, what the question's gonna look like, and just kind of start putting a time frame together for that, because that's gonna sneak up on us pretty quick. And with that ballot initiative, we also discussed the marijuana sales tax, putting potentially that back on, so I think we should probably have a discussion maybe next meeting or next future meetings, whether the council wants to move that direction or not, to keep supporting the museum and library. So, good meetings with the county, you know, they come up with some good ideas, but, Monday, or tomorrow, we have a Parks and Rec advisory meeting, and then next Monday, Economic Development and Planning and Zoning next Monday has been canceled, so that's all I have.
Jesse?
Not been busy, but just my meetings for next few weeks coming up.
Okay. Randy?
Make you happy, but I was out of town for the last 13 days, so I missed a couple meetings, but don't really have a report other than I have teacher meetings. So,
Okay. Andrea?
And I missed the LMD meeting last week due to work scheduling, and I missed a couple of other things, unfortunately, just that work thing. So, I don't have anything else to report.
Luke?
No, like Derek said, I attended the joint services meeting with him. Just one more thing on Loudy, we did discuss like accountability out there, and you know, they are investing. So I mean, as long as we kind of keep the conversation going, I think we're in a good spot on Loudy Simpson right now, as long as the accountability's there. So, and also we did discuss the marijuana issue. We did kind of discuss talking to the library and the museum and helping with those issues. So if they could help us market, do different things. So that'll be another conversation to have. I attended the employee appreciation luncheon, and that was a nice event. And I did meet with Peter and Carl with the golf board about, we just have an issue on number 16. Is like today it is completely flooded up to the cart path, not quite as bad as it was last year, but it's probably going to go with the river doing what it's doing right now. So, I mean, thanks for helping us address that issue. But other than that,
That's it?
yep.
Well, Randy saved us about 15 minutes. So,
Yep.
So I'll go
Doesn't
take
mean
it.
you can take it.
So, you know, I was out of town for 2 weeks there as well, but I still have a couple things. On 4/28, I did testify remotely for Excel and their ERP with the Public Utility Commission, and then obviously, what was it, on the 31st? You could testify in person in Hayden on basically closing of the Hayden Station, and I did bring up, you know, our ask that we sat and discussed with the county, sitting down with the county for property tax, and then the actual 60% of Excel's workers live in Craig. So we did, you know, bring up that in front of the PUC commissioners. LMD meeting today, I did attend with the chamber on set up about moving the issue of renewal of the LMD tax, or keep the LMD going. It was quite the interesting meeting, but, you know, time's running out and we need to keep moving. So, you know, same thing with marijuana tax. We want that back on the ballot. So I know the chamber and the group's pretty active on LMD and keeping that going. Yesterday, I did attend the 8th Street open house, see the lifestyle at the 8th Street townhomes. There was a little group there, about 15 people. I was a little surprised we didn't see more from our major employers, basically, because, you know, they were the ones telling us we needed more housing, you know, and they had people turning down job offers, but they did have some representatives there, but, you know, the townhouses show well. You know, if you've been in them, or if you haven't been in them, contact, you know, Cornerstone, and you can get a showing and see you know, what's there. But they do show well once you're actually in them. And they're very well insulated, because what was it, 86 degrees yesterday? And at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, it was still cool, you know, temperature-wise inside the unit. So shows that, you know, they are constructed, you know, at least insulated, Energy Star certified. So I did attend the county commissioners meeting today. I'll just basically, you know, their consent agenda is like 10 different items. Really entertainment contract with Two Ranch LLC for the fair. Human services contracts, there's many there. But again, their agenda is on their website under their meetings for today. But the items they did take action on, Ray Beck was there because chair of the Jolt Conference Committee. Request for support for resolution requesting Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, to deliver the keynote address at the 2026 Jolt Energy Summit, which was approved, their resolution. They had a public hearing on 2 items. Candace Miller presented a conditional use permit for Union Wireless. They are replacing an existing temporary 60-foot tower to a 100-foot lattice tower. No one showed up to speak in favor or against it, and they did approve a minor subdivision, Shimzu, minor subdivision, where it just split one parcel into 2. Staff reports, Office of Development Services, Neil Binder, request waiving bid process for a snow removal utility vehicle. Commissioners approved $25,857 to U.S. Tractor for a John Deere Gator. National Resource Director Jeff Comstock, Resolution 2551, consenting to the Rural Transportation Authority service to the city of Craig. So there is a portion of the RTA, when and if it's approved, and where it goes to the ballot, the Routt County section to the city of Craig has to be continuous for this authority to be formed. There's a stretch on the highway, and it's only the highway right-of-way. It did not affect any property owners in Moffett County that the commissioners agreed to that, what did they call that section?
A flagpole.
Flagpole, which is just right along the highway. So the commissioners did approve that. Request for support for Western States Tribal Nations Energy Initiative Infrastructure Study of $6,500. And what this is, study for natural gas movement out of Piceance Basin. So it's something the county is involved. Road and Bridge, they approved a shredder for tires, a low-speed shredder for $398,000, and purchased a passenger van. And then Human Services requests authorization to begin negotiation with the county attorney candidate and discuss employment offer for a veteran service officer position. So that was their agenda. Again, anything else you need more information on it, you can look on their website. Any other questions for anybody, council, among ourselves, or? Hearing none, let's move on to item number 6, public comment. Public comment is time set aside for citizens to address the city council on matters within the jurisdiction of the city. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. Speakers cannot cede their time to another speaker. The city council can only act on matters that are on the agenda, but may place matters brought to their attention at this meeting on a future agenda for consideration. So, public comment is open. I see a couple. Hi, Maggie, come on up.
don't know me, I'm Maggie St. John, and I talked to Peter a couple weeks ago. I am here mainly to help you understand more maybe about having a nuclear waste here in Craig. I have 5 family members that work at one facility in Idaho. All of them are very, very high-paying jobs. They have been there, that facility, I believe, has been there about 40 years. And they are constantly under making sure things are always checked, double-checked. My daughter is a paralegal, and she is in charge of taking the contracts from the federal government and breaking them down into each department as to what their responsibilities are and when deadlines are to be made and quality is at what levels. And she makes sure that's done. And they have contracts that come in about every 5 years. And she deals with these contracts and works with them. I have a granddaughter that works in the business department, and she is 36 years old, and she's making $160,000 a year. And they're very, very high quality jobs. Even a truck driver starts out somewhere between $30 to $40 an hour. Benefits are outstanding. The employment work is outstanding. Everybody there would kill to have a job at the plant. People that live and have other jobs are waiting for openings to come. I'm not sure how much they hire out there. I do believe it's somewhere around 300 people to 400. And also, if you're thinking about what would be best for Craig, how you can help move Craig forward, I think that's a huge part of that to be able to consider. I know a lot of people won't like it or will have negative feelings about it, and I think how you can overcome that, it's important for you, as I had already mentioned to Peter, and I sent him a video that my daughter sent me on it. And it's important that we educate the public and help them understand it's not a site that is like they used to be. They're different. And I think that's the key to helping people understand. And in doing so, though, I think it's also important, which is a sidestep to this, it's important that the City Council comes and understands to bring in businesses, you're going to have the housing, which you already know that. But we also have to make sure that if a contractor comes in and wants to do development, what is the city going to offer him? What about his hookup fees? I think the city should be willing to offer contractors that as a free option to entice them to come to Craig to build.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's cut your time. Thank you for your comment. Reminded me of something I need to add under closing comments and things I forgot. I didn't talk about the ECA, but anyway, thank you, Maggie. Anybody else like to come up? Opportunity to address council? Seeing no further, let's close public comment and move on to item 7, public hearing. We have none scheduled. Item 8, other business. Water and wastewater director Carway to present for discussion and approval the property acquisition. I will not read the parcel number. Legal description is subdivision Mountain View lot number 1-1 through 19, block 16, in the amount of $15,000. Mr. Ray.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So Peter became aware that the property was going to be sold, and it is adjacent to the site of our Barkley tanks, Barkley water tanks on the, kind of the top of the hill there on Barkley Street. And he asked if I had any thoughts on how that parcel may be useful, and so I'd actually been thinking about what we'll do with the existing Barclay tanks. So they're in-ground concrete storage tanks, one with a concrete lid, one with an aluminum cover on it. But one of them, the 1 million gallon capacity tank, is 64 years old, and the 500,000 gallon tank predates 1961. We aren't sure the actual date of construction. It does not have a plaque on it. But concrete tanks have a service life, a maximum service life of about 100 years. And rehabilitation of those tanks is expensive. And we will, at some point, it will become more cost-effective to build new tanks and replace those existing tanks. But in order to do that, the Barclay tanks feed the core area of town. So the logical way to do that is to build new tanks and then leave the existing in and decommission them later. And so this parcel would afford us the opportunity to build some above-ground tanks. It's kind of on a hill adjacent to the existing city parcel. And there's a natural bank that could be cut out and modified and as a tank site. And also, those tanks see heavy use in the summertime, and some additional capacity over the 1.5 million gallons would be beneficial. So we don't know when that might happen. I know Marlon actually asked me that in an email today, but it depends on the comprehensive inspection and what the next round of rehabilitation looks like. But I would think that we should start, if council approves this purchase, I think we should start looking probably in about 10 years toward a replacement tank project for that area. I don't think I have anything else on that. I think that, the parcel meets the requirements that we have. It's also been asking me about zoning. So talking with Marlon, I guess we do not have a zone that is specific to municipal use. So our tanks are zoned open space. So eventually that would require rezoning if the city purchases this parcel, rezoning to open space with conditional use for that purpose. So be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
No questions? So this would landlock us if we don't buy this. We would never have the room to.
Right.
Well, we'd have to be able to find another suitable parcel, and that's probably one of the most suitable ones that's adjacent to it.
Makes sense.
And the infrastructure is right there too, because we haven't fully used the existing parcel, so we could easily access the transmission mains and the other infrastructure.
Okay. Council, it's your pleasure.
I'll make a motion to approve the property acquisition for the legal description, Mount View Lot 1 through 19, Block 16, in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
Councilmember Duran made a motion to approve the purchase of the Mountain View Lot 1 through 19 for $15,000, second by Councilmember Looper. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alrighty, proceed. Item 8B, Road and Bridge Director Shane Baker to present for discussion and approval the award of a bid for a solid waste cabin chassis with automated side load body to Jackson Group Peterbilt in the amount of $419,909 no cents. Mr. Baker.
Good evening, Council. Tonight, we're asking for the approval to purchase a cabin chassis automated side load body for the solid waste department that we opened April 29th. The amount approved for the purchase this year would be $460,000. If approved, this will replace a 2010 Unit 208, a 2010 Peterbilt automated. 3 vendors did provide a mandatory equipment demonstration where they let us use the truck all day, go up and down the alleys, make sure they lift the 300-gallon cans. but only one put in a formal bid, Jackson Group Peterbilt. They're 300 days out from the time we put the order in, and that is to finish. So this, if approved, this will be a re-budget for next year. But this is about the fastest we've had one come in. So they bid a 2026 Peterbilt 520 cabin chassis for $218,371. A 2025 Labrie Atomizer body for $226,538, and are giving us $25,000 trade-in for that truck. That truck's got roughly 10,000 hours and about 90,000 miles, I believe, is what I checked today, for a total of $419,909. So we would like to recommend the bid go to Jackson Group Peterbilt for the cabin chassis and the 2025 Labrie Atomizer. They met their mandatory pre-bid demo, the bid specifications, and will leave us $40,091 under budget.
Shane, I assume the 2010 is in good enough shape. It won't be a problem to use it for a full year?
Yeah, we're babying it through. It's got its problems. The floor's going out on it, but we're welding back on it. So yeah, we can use it for hopefully another year.
And then when we actually get the truck, they'll drop that off and pick up that and take that one with them?
Yep.
Soon? Okay.
Yep. Last one, I believe I think we only got 17,000 for that. So this is, we're actually moving forward. This truck we're getting right now is actually hopefully going to be more dependable. We're the only ones in the whole country using this side load right now. And when Trevor presented it last time, they said they were done. Well, then they told me this budget cycle that they would make us another one, then backed out. So that's why we went through all this demo. And it worked out good. And this one here is supposedly a lot more dependable and should be more cost effective.
Is providing a 300-gallon can, is that, like when you talk to these suppliers, only one, is that like a common thing that communities do, or is that?
It is, but isn't. Like, we just bought those 300-gallon cans from Gypsum. People in Arizona, like when you talk to them, because they sell everywhere. Down there, they make a few houses share a 300-gallon can. I just don't think that. I think it's something that we've offered. We don't have a lot of them out. I think we have about 300 out right now, and that might be high, but it's enough that it would be a service that, I mean, eventually we could look into it, but with this truck, I mean,
Having to buy specialty equipment because of these 300-gallon cans?
this truck here is not, but we were, yes. We finally demoed one that, it lifts 1,000 pounds. Well, that's more than you should be putting one of those anyways. Our old trucks that we were buying, those special arm, would lift 2,500 pounds. Well, they shouldn't be putting that there anyways, so.
Okay, since we're talking solid waste, how people can sign up to have their senior citizens can sign up to have their yard waste picked up?
Yeah.
correct?
Starting this week, yep.
Okay, and they call City Hall?
Yes, they call the day before their service or 2 days before their service, and we'll put you on the list and we'll come get it.
Do we have people calling, or, yeah, good. All righty. Any other questions for Shane? Hearing none, council.
I'll make a motion to award the bid of the solid waste cabin chassis and automated side load body to Jackson Group Peterbilt in the amount of $419,909.
Second?
Councilman Looper made a motion to approve the award of the bid to cabin chassis, second by Councilwoman Camp. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Item C, Water and Wastewater Director Carl Ray to present for discussion and approval the award of bid for the 10th Street water line replacement to Anson Excavating and Pipe in the amount of $783,800. Mr. Ray,
Good evening again.
or should I say Surfer Dude? Yeah.
The water main on 10th Street between Legion Street and Rose Street is in very poor condition. Numerous repairs. We've replaced 80 linear feet of it. We had to temporarily install an isolation valve that prevents proper looping where the line starts to dive underneath Fortification Creek. And doing a creek crossing like that is a little bit out of our in-house expertise and requires a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit. So I know you guys have heard me talk about some of this before, including the mayor. Anyway, the EOPC for the project, the total project EOPC is $1,109,520, and we applied for and received full funding on a DOLA grant for an award of $554,760 from DOLA, with the other 50% from the city. We prepared engineering documents, advertised for bid, had a pre-bid meeting, and bids were opened May 8th. We received 2 bids, one from Anson Excavating and Pipe and one from Phones Construction. There's a bid tab on the next page. So the contending bids were reduced to 1 on May 9th when Phones reviewed their submitted bid and identified errors. Phones Construction subsequently withdrew their bid for consideration, leaving Anson Excavating and Pipe as the sole bidder. So the bids were reviewed by SGM, and they recommended going with Anson Excavating and Pipe, and that's also our recommendation. So SGM on their award letter had an EOPC of $812,800. That actually was in error. That was just the EOPC for only the construction items, did not include the contingency, and was based on a previous EOPC, not the final one. So, the project should come in under budget. The other, in addition to construction and other construction in the EOPC, there is all the engineering cost and permitting cost and all that. So I think with awarding the project to Anson Excavating and Pipe, I still anticipate we'll be within budget.
Questions? So we just don't get to use the whole 500, and
Right.
Right.
so we can only use 50% of that, right, of the DOLA money.
Yeah, and for the engineering as well,
Right.
so.
So with the engineering, you're thinking it'll go up to the $1.1 million we got, so we will be using all of the DOLA and our match?
I think it'll probably more likely be 800,000 or 900,000. So.
900,000. So again, then and they haven't given us the money yet, so it's not like we're returning anything.
No, we file for reimbursement
Okay.
for that.
I wanted our full money because I had to ride with you all day. All righty. Council, again, pleasure.
I move to approve the award of bid for the 10th Street water line replacement to Anson Excavating and Pipe in the amount of $783,800.
Second?
Okay, Councilwoman Gotchel made a motion to approve and award the bid to 10th Street water line to Anson Pipe and Excavating, second by Councilmember Jackson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. All right. Item D, Parks and Recreation Director Ryan Dennison to present for discussion and approval to purchase a John Deere 5075E cab utility tractor and a John Deere 500M utility loader to Deere and Company in the amount of $68,679.10. Mr. Dennison.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. So Parks and Recreation is seeking to purchase the 75 horsepower John Deere tractor to replace our 1990 Case tractor. We've had pretty significant issues over the last couple of years. And to replace it with more horsepower, that's a 63 horsepower tractors. This would increase it to 75 horsepower. So Sourcewell is a cooperative purchasing cooperative that allows access to national bid contracts, so RFP. So the neat thing about that is they handle the RFP nationally for equipment and different things. And so that process, the procurement process, is already taken care of. So this tractor is the lowest price that we could get. And what's nice in addition to that is we'll be working with US Tractor and Harvest here locally, and they're a Sourcewell vendor as well. So they're kind of like the middleman. And we'll be going through the process with them. And then on the back end, they'll get, reimbursed through Sourcewell. Really neat program, and it really makes sense in a lot of cases. They have, for Parks and Recreation, they have playground equipment, mowers, things like that. So really neat. I don't know, if it's applicable for everything, but definitely makes sense depending on the type of equipment and things like that, because it is the lowest price. When I seen this price, I couldn't believe it. If I was to do this, write the RFP, go through the process, this could be potentially double the price. What's neat, in addition to that, also is this tractor, we'll use it for downtown snow removal, but make it multi-purpose in our park system. So have the ability, with that price to include, turf tires, so we can change them out and haul, implements behind it. So make it universal moving forward. We don't have this in our park system, so really neat to have this potentially. It's really, I couldn't believe it. It's really cost effective on this. So with that price, we include the tractor, utility loader, and a set of turf rims for that cost. And then, moving forward with monies left over, we would like to purchase turf tires here locally moving forward. So any questions? Be happy to answer any.
Is this the first time you've used this source?
Yeah, and it's just, I've been, did an online meeting with a representative just to kind of get a feel of the process. Mindy's familiar with it, so really took that through a source she had, and then just kind of went through the process. Because it's new to me, I've never done this, but like I said, it really, moving forward, it really makes sense depending on what the project or the scope is. Because it's the lowest price you'll get. So pretty neat.
Since this national contract cooperative or purchasing programs, does that meet our competitive bids and requirement, or?
It's already, yeah, so it's nationally, it's bid.
Right.
Yeah, through the procurement process, screen and matrix on it.
Chris, we've used this before.
We have,
Bidding situations.
okay. Cool. No, I like saving, obviously you say it would be easier twice as much, so.
Right.
So. Any other questions? Ryan? Council?
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a John Deere 5075E cab utility tractor and John Deere 500M utility loader to Deere and Company in the amount of $68,679.10.
Second.
Councilman Looper made a motion to purchase the John Deere utility tractor and utility loader for $68,679.10, second by Councilman Jackson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you're approved. It's
Thank you.
approved. Item 9, discussions. City Manager Peter Brixis to present for discussion a possible memorandum of understanding between the City of Craig and Moffett County for metering of water for the cemetery. Mr. Brixis.
Councilman Duran, do you want to introduce this topic?
Yeah, this is obviously this has been a joint service project or topic for many years. And it seems like, and more recently, probably the last 4 or 5 months, we've been talking about it with Commissioner Booyer. We had meetings that Peter attended, and we discussed roughly about $40,000 is what the usage the county uses at the cemetery. Is that correct? Is that the number we threw out?
Over the past 3 years, it's been roughly 31,000, 34,000, and now 37,000.
Okay. So, yeah, the number we threw was roughly about 40,000, but a little bit lower. And the county just asked if we'd be willing to help. And we thought, you know, with this being a joint service project, it would be a good project to try and work through. It's a community asset that they do a pretty good job of maintaining, that all taxpayers utilize. So I just thought, we've been talking about it for 6 months. Let's just, you know, let's put it for discussion and see what the council thinks. You know, I think it's a good first project to show a partnership with the county, to show the community that we're working together. You know, I know we had an economic development workshop last meeting, and one of their discussion items was that they want to see us utilizing resources. And, you know, this is 40,000, it's 40,000. It's a small project, but I think it's a good message to the community. Hey, we're trying to do what's best for the taxpayer. So we discussed kind of trading services back and forth on this one. We weren't really getting anywhere with that, whether they were gonna, you know, offset landfill fees or something. But in my opinion, this was just a simple one, in that it's such a community asset and property that we thought, you know, I'd like to just throw on the table. Let's just find a way to make it happen and see what the rest of the council thinks. So, I don't know if you want to add anything, but.
No, I think it's one of those projects. I think even in the past, the city was the owner of the cemetery at one point, and then when we were having hard times, we passed it over to the county. I think this is a good thing that we can both work together on, and I think we should take care of the water for them.
Yeah. Currently, it is metered, obviously. There is a well up there that we discussed looking into, but I don't think that's an option anytime in the near future. Obviously, that would be the end goal, would be to utilize the well, but with that not happening anytime soon, I think this one might be a good alternative while we move forward and the county moves forward and trying to utilize that well potentially in the future. So obviously just up for discussion. Joint services, a lot of things get thrown at us, and so we discuss it, and we, you know, obviously it's our job to bring back to the council and staff and discuss. So
It's just really something we want. We want the cemetery to look good forever. So I think this is a good project.
Good try. Good trade-off.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the item of swapping some service for it. You know, the one meeting I did attend, and when you restarted joint services, it was a trade of services, either tip fees at the dump or something in the amount of whatever we did, in this case, 40,000 roughly. You know, so I just wanted to make sure it's reciprocal down the road as well, because we're passing this now on to our water ratepayers. You know, they're gonna make up this 40,000. So, you know, what would they get in return?
But I think if you look at it another way, it could be passed back onto the city or county taxpayers because they need help to pay for it.
Well,
So
they're
either
paying
way,
for it
we're-
now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So either way, it's the same, and it's a
Right.
win-win if we're helping them.
But it's
I think it's a good thing.
It's a new thing for the water enterprise fund.
Yeah.
So, no, it makes sense to share services. I just wanted to make sure that, you know, there is reciprocation down the road too.
Well, we're never going to get this I don't want to get into this dollar for dollar stuff on these things. This is a good thing for the community, period. It's not something we need to go, boy, we need dollar for dollar on this action. So I don't think anybody in the community is gonna be upset that we're helping the county. I mean, they've got a full-time employee, they're working, I mean, they're doing a good job.
Well, and I don't look at that as any different than what
No.
we're doing helping them with Loudy.
No,
I
I-
mean, that's it, again, the cemetery, just like Loudy, just
They're
like
gonna
other
help us
parks.
on this trail from Boys and
Right.
Girls Club to the, I mean, we're working together in a good, positive way. I think this is what the
Okay.
community wants to see. It's, all these dollars are out of the same pockets, no matter what. So,
Any other comments? No, it makes sense. I don't have a problem with that. I just wanted to make sure how the discussion evolved.
Yeah, there's, you know, and there's some potential discussion that we talked last meeting about, you know, there's a lot of gravel that the county owns that potentially they might be able to provide to us instead of, you know, so there is that continuous discussion, I think, more now than ever, that are saying, hey, what about this? Can we tap into the resource? You know, county has this resource, but we need that, and vice versa. And
Yeah.
there is some really good ideas from staff, you know, and the commissioners coming up that I don't think have been discussed. And it's little things, but it's showing the community that, hey, yeah, there might be some tough times in the next few years, and dollars might be tight, so let's string together what we can, so.
Nope. Any further questions, comments? Are you gonna create the memorandum or for approval, or what's?
Next step.
So we have a draft MOU. We just didn't want to submit it to council prior to having an actual discussion, since only Councilman Duran and Councilman Luker, or Tucker were part of that, so.
So we cannot not approve that memorandum, so you want like a consensus, or what?
I don't need anything. I'll just put the MOU
Okay.
on the agenda for the next meeting, and then at that point, council can have a discussion and then vote on whether or not they want to approve that MOU.
Well, I think it's pretty favorable, so, okay, thank
I
you.
think it's important, you know, we've had conversations with the county that, you know, obviously if we're gonna provide this service, you know, we don't need the water usage to double all of a sudden, you know, so it just, keep an eye on it and seeing how it works for a year or 2 years, and, you know, it's all we can do.
Okay. Item 10, staff reports. Chief Cochran to present the police update for April 2025. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have my standard report that should be in your packet. Before we get to the numbers, though, I wanted to go over a few things and highlight some happenings in April. As you know, we brought on a third CSO. I'm happy to report that CSO is now in the shadowing phase of her training. So she's out by herself doing some work. We were fortunate that in April, in bringing her on, the animal control classes for certification were offered in the Front Range. All 3 CSOs attended that training, two to recertify and 1 to certify. We were able as well, with the help of Road and Bridge, to convert a police truck into a third CSO vehicle. It took some doing. I know the shop, I've got to thank them. They got everything out that didn't need to be in it. And Commander Conrad and myself spent quite a bit of time learning how you remove decals from a vehicle. And that's not an easy job.
No.
But we have a third truck up going. They have been extremely busy. You'll see in the report that just in 1 month, they've gone up 107% in calls. Animal control, I told you that side usually keeps us busy, and although there's been a very large reduction of 30% for the month, we've seen quite an increase in dog bites this year. As a matter of fact, over the past couple of days, we've had 3 in just 2 days. So you'll see a lot of those coming into city court for the vicious animals on some occasions. Aside from that, exciting news that next Wednesday, our 2 recruits that have been in the academy will be graduating. We'll be attending that in Delta. Get them back, and after they get a little vacation time, we'll get them in the FTO program. That leaves us with 3 remaining positions that are vacant. We have had standing open application period with a couple that have applied. So nothing promising yet on that end. Today we had the DARE graduation. That's always a great event to attend. Today we had 127 fifth graders graduate from DARE. If you've never got to see one of those, it's impressive to see. One of the nicest points of that is the contest that the students have in doing an essay about what they've learned in DARE. And DARE is a 12-week program that goes through for the fifth graders. And hearing some of these essays that were written by these fifth graders is just amazing. So we always choose 4 total winners. We have 3 that are the top, and then the overall winner that wins in that category. And today was very nice, hearing some of the things these students came up with. So I would invite next year. We do it the same time every year. And would love to have some of you there if you'd like to attend. It's a great event. Any questions on any of that so far?
I just have DARE funding.
Yes.
So in the past, part of that used to be community-based funding.
Yes, sir.
So is your budget making up?
Not 100%. We still have some local businesses that help us tremendously.
Okay.
I can't give you the names of the businesses. That's usually handled through the SRO program. But what's given as far as the essay winners is gift cards. And if you complete the essay and graduate the program, you get a DARE card. And a lot of our local businesses honor those cards with discounted items in purchases inside the stores. Sometimes it's a free gift for the recipient that has that card. Our budget predominantly covers the DARE t-shirt. So we buy those shirts every year so that the graduating group that year has the same t-shirt across the board. And that's typically where our budget goes to. But there is a lot of community support in that program that helps get some other things going.
Cool.
Any other questions on any of those items?
And dog bites?
Dog bites.
Particular breed or?
You know, I hate to point out any one breed, but we've had some issues with some pit bulls. Now, not every bite that we've had has been a pit bull, because we have had bites that came through from other breeds. But I would say the vast majority are pit bulls.
Okay.
So
Any other
that's
questions?
something we're seeing quite an increase in this year.
Going back to DARE for just a second, I know during budget last year, we had kind of talked about how the school district may or may not go away from the DARE program. Is the way you're talking, it sounds like it's sticking around.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see it leave. I think part of what we discussed is part of my job is to say, hey, when I get asked questions, why do we have to send our SROs to schools in other parts of the country rather than locally here in this state? And DARE for a long time had become a program that wasn't being utilized in the state. If you go to their website and go to the portion that takes you to our state, I think it lists 7 different communities that still use the DARE. So the school with the superintendent, we had some meetings on what's working, what's not working. And part of it was to present that, hey, this is why it takes a while to get our people certified to teach DARE. We have to go to other states. Officer Sambu, that everybody at the school knows by that name, will be leaving, and I believe we finally got him into a class in Oklahoma. I don't remember. We looked there in Nebraska as well to get him into an instructor school. And it's just because it's not as popular of a program here anymore, they don't offer those classes here. Now, they offer many other classes related to SROs. Officer Hampton has gone to many on the Front Range related to different things they do for SRO. But I don't have the information that we're going to do away with DARE. But just like the SRO program, that's a decision that the school has the ability to have input into. And I think that's the fair place to put it, is give them some input as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on what I've covered so far? Number-wise, going to the first page of the report, again, told you code enforcement is up for calls for service. Animal calls, although showing down, we're getting a little more serious calls with the dog bites. Other things that kind of show a trending up is, as we get into the warmer months, we always see the call volume overall go up, or incident count go up, and there was about a 19% increase from March to April. I'm sure we'll see that same trend as we go into and finish out May. No real surprises on the actual numbers. Investigations staying busy. Carrying cases over and closing out cases, they're almost equal in new cases assigned and some closed, but you can see that we carry quite a load there. Any questions on the first page?
Well, with the new SRO and going back to the animal thing, basically, is it just that you're going to be dealing with more because you have another person to deal with it? So the numbers are going to
the numbers
probably
will
increase
continue
because
to
you'll
go
have another
up.
person.
I think the biggest change you're going to see right now is they've been able to be extremely proactive on some of the code enforcement issues.
Okay.
We've had a lot of compliance. We've had a lot of people that are not happy because they're getting certified letters or red tags. We're having some problem areas that are finally coming into compliance. There's been some movement on some of those areas to get them cleaned up. And I think you'll continue to see that increase. They're able to be out, and rather than responsive, only going call to call to call, they can get out and ride and be a little proactive. We've also, for summer, as many of you remember, we would change their hours up so we have better coverage in the summer. Having 3 now, we will have a code enforcement officer / animal control officer 7 days a week. And that's probably a first for us right now, being able to accomplish that. Typically what will happen, let's take a dog bite. If it occurs on the weekend, the officer will take a report, but animal control has to follow up the next week. There's certain things that they have to do on reporting sides to follow up to be sure the dog was vaccinated, to be sure that if it wasn't vaccinated, it was quarantined. So I think it helps us overall having the 3. Again, animal complaints have always been the highest.
Right.
And those are kind of the priorities, especially with the vicious dogs. But I'm proud to say that they're being very proactive, and glad to see that we're getting some compliance coming in with some of the problem areas that we've dealt with year after year.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Next page is just going over our calls by number, the top calls that we have. I will tell you that the VIN inspections, I've always said it, they go up as we get into spring. Now, this past winter, we had quite a few VIN inspections. Those continue. They don't just continue for us, they continue for the county as well. And Predominantly, that is checking vehicles when you get a new person into the community that has to have their vehicles checked, be it a trailer, a car, a camper. But those always pick up in the summer times. So that'll tend to be quite a bit higher. The one other thing that I didn't write down that I wanted to update you on is I brought to you the permitting issue for our turkey vultures. I'm happy to say that that was completed as of yet last night, and our permits were filled, and we have been able to permanently relocate some animals at this point. So that went very well, and that I think that was evident that we weren't getting the calls that we always get for the turkey vultures. We had gotten a huge population, and the federal government stepped in and said that we could hire one of their contractors to take care of that problem. Any question on the other numbers there? Animal control report, the third page, is going to go over what was handled total, 231 calls. A lot of those were officers. Again, I told you all of our CSOs were in training for a week, and a lot of those calls were coming in on weekends when we didn't have coverage. So we have to fill in with the officers there. That will continue to rise. I don't know how we avoid that. But it's being handled at this point. I made you the list I always do of areas that we have in the month of April have had contact with. That will show you the address that we've been in contact with. It tells you whether it's property maintenance, whether it's animal at large, or a health and safety issue with an animal. Those have been pretty consistent, and I think you can see from this month how that increased. It's amazing that they handled that many and they were out of town for a week that we didn't have any of them. But again, this year I think being proactive, we're able to get more compliance than we have in the past. And I hope it maintains that way. Any questions on specifics showing the locations that we're spending our time as CSOs? And last but not least, I had been printing you off a summary sheet showing what each of the CSOs was doing, where they were spending their time. Just as it was when we hired our second CSO the first of the year, or the last year, it kind of gets skewed because when you're training a CSO, they're the ones that's taking a responsibility for most of the stuff going out on. So they get to do the reports, but it's tying up two at that time. So I did print off three, one for each of the CSOs. Kind of gives you a rundown of what they've done, how many numbers they're handling on each of those, what the average time is that it's taking to be occupied on those particular items. And you will continue to see that grow as the summertime comes into full swing. Any questions on the activities? Anything that I haven't mentioned that you have a question on?
The side-by-side.
Yes, sir.
You have plans to get it out on the trails more this year?
Yes, sir. I've been out quite a bit myself in it this year.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, 2 months ago, I took Ryan out with me. We rode on all the trails. I was on the trails most of yesterday myself. So it's being out, it's being seen, and it's being useful.
Good.
Being very useful.
Cool. Council, questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Item B, Finance Director Mindy Elliott to present the March 2025 financials.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Your packets contained the financials through the end of March. I do apologize that we are a couple weeks behind in presenting that. We did have auditors on site. As far as we know, the audit went fairly well. They are probably going to present the audited financials sometime in June, probably later in June. But we'll get that on the agenda when we know that. So let's dive in. I also gave you summary sheets listing notes. So countywide sales tax, we are still seeing that trending downward. I did do a comparison on the top 100 businesses year over year to see if anything really stood out. There was one that was due to a business closure that was about $5,500, and then a one-time purchase of $7,800. The rest of it is some are up, some are down. There was no one main driver. So compared to 2024 actuals, we are down $30,000, which is about just shy of 10%. And then compared to 2025 budget, we're also down 22,000, which is just shy of 7.5%. City sales tax on compared to 2024 actuals, we're down just below 1,200, which is a very minuscule percentage. And then compared to 2025 budget, we are doing more favorably than what we had budgeted. We're up 105,000, or 8.16%. The next is the city sales tax graph, kind of comparing, and I forgot to mention too that these are the sales only through February. They're always a month behind. And so this shows which businesses, again, we're seeing most categories are pretty even compared to February of 2024, with the few exceptions of grocery and retail general are down, oil, gas, and then the marijuana are also up. The next are the water sales. Compared to 2024 actuals, we're up 35,000, which is just around 5%. But compared to 2025 budget, we are down just under $900.
Mindy, just out of curiosity, with water and wastewater, do you think we're up because of more usage or up because we increased the amount we're charging?
It's probably both.
Okay.
A little both.
Sure, it's the rates.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah,
figuring.
as we get more into the summer months, then you'll see some of that starting to fluctuate. And so now we're onto the wastewater. Compared to 2024 actuals, we're up 91,000, or just a little over 15%. And compared to 2025 budget, we're up about 3,000. And on to the construction dumpsters. Compared to 2024 actuals, we're up just a little over 1,900. And compared to 2025 budget, we're also up $118. On the collection fees, compared to 2024 actuals, we're up 38,000, and up from 2025 budget, 17,000. And then landfill fees, 2024 actuals, we're up 8,600, and compared to 2025 budget, we're also up the same amount. We keep those budgeted the same amount until we start getting into the summer months. And then on to the financial summary. So here's the general fund. We started out with a beginning balance of $23,501,906. We have revenues added through the end of March of $2,552,153. We've had expenditures of $2,993,000 or $993,909. And capital expenditures of $573,310, for an ending fund balance through the end of March of $22,486,840. The next sheet is a breakout of the detailed revenue, so you can go through there and see what that makes up and kind of where we're compared to budget. And we'll jump down into the capital project fund. Started with a beginning balance of $515,698. Added revenues through the end of March of $414,806. We've had expenditures of $149,841 for an ending fund balance of $780,663. And the next one is the museum fund, beginning balance of $515,698. Revenues through the end of March, $414,396. Expenditures of $117,488 for an ending fund balance of $812,605. As a special note, so the 3% additional marijuana tax has yielded $5,726.15 in January, and in February, $5,720.66. That's both for the museum and the library. We do have the March numbers that will be reflected when we do the April financials at the end of the month, and that was at $6,123. Again, that's to each entity. The checks have been mailed out to the library, so they, those were made out to Moffett County, so they are in receipt of those funds. And then onto the water fund, beginning balance of $7,439,462. Revenues through the end of March, $880,464. Expenditures of $814,795 for an ending March fund balance of $7,505,132. Wastewater fund, beginning balance $3,839,919. Added revenues of $720,010. Expenditures of $393,923 for an ending March fund balance of $4,166,006. And our solid waste fund, beginning balance $1,831,102. Added revenues through March, $530,186. Expenditures of $388,789 for an ending March fund balance of $1,972,499. Next is the medical fund. Beginning fund balance of $469,149. Revenues of $745,128. Expenditures of $726,500 for an ending March fund balance of $488,077. And then the Housing Authority, we kind of went through this in the Housing Authority meeting earlier, but a beginning fund balance of $760,654. Added revenues of $2,249. Expenditures of $255,544 for an ending March fund balance of $507,359. And then, let's see, jump down to the Cura fund. Beginning fund balance, $167,766. Added revenue of $145. Expenditures of $20, and an ending March fund balance of $167,861. The next page is what we have in Colo Trust. Ending March balance, we have $29,631,576.77. And in C-Safe, end of March, our ending balance is $216,849.20. And then the last pages are the capital projects and kind of where they stand through the end of March. Do you have any questions?
No questions? Thank you. This sheet, very helpful. to
Yes, it
follow.
is. It's wonderful.
Okay, we'll keep doing them then.
Okay, moving on. Item 11, closing remarks and informational items. Council?
The only thing I have is a question for Peter. You had mentioned in the previous meeting that your Public Works Director was hired. So when does he start?
June 15th.
Perfect.
Yep. And he's already purchased a home. He's coming for sure.
Any other?
I think I want to talk about our Craig Press again. Earlier this week, there was an article in the paper that all I can say is it's trying to vilify one of our officers without an investigation being complete. And I want to discuss our relationship with the Craig Press and what that looks like in the future. I think what's going on is completely out of line and does not reflect the pulse of our community or the values of our community. And I don't know if it's the reporter or if it's the Swift Communications, but I think it needs to be addressed at some point.
So Councilman Tucker, since we didn't formally notice that, if you would like to put that on the next.
Oh, and I'm not, I just wanted to bring it to attention. I don't want to make any, I just think it's something that needs to be brought up. That's all.
Agreed, but we can definitely put that on the.
I think that would be great. Yeah, let's do that.
Noted.
You know, the press contacted me, the publisher, wanted me to give them information on an ongoing investigation, and, you know, I said, I can't give you any information. You know exactly what I know.
Right.
So, I do agree with you that the articles seem a bit, what the word I'm trying to say?
Accusatory.
Yeah, of, you know, our officers, so, you know, it's freedom of the press, I don't know, it's, you know, they filed Cora, you know, public records information, they were telling me on that, so, I don't know what we can do other than try to keep a good relationship with them, give them information, don't let them start trying to dig up information. I thought we had a better rapport starting with the paper, so.
Well, I think John's done a great job locally.
Yeah.
It's when, you know, the editors or whoever start, I think that's the issue that we've seen lately, and we've done a lot to support that paper, and I think it's up for discussion that we would like some support back.
But agreed, so. And the only thing I have to add here is, and Maggie St. John, I think Peter did, you know, the Energy Community Alliance, the forum that Peter and I attended. He did an excellent job recapping that. I'm not gonna go over a whole lot more. The one big thing I walked away from, you know, it was jam-packed, just like Peter said. You know, I think the DOE, Department of Energy, has learned from the past mistakes on nuclear. Everything they're trying to do more now is consent-based community support. You know, they're asking for our interest in the project and moving forward. And as far as asking questions and what kind of information we need. And that's all we are at this point, saying, sure, we want to learn more. I think a project like this can fundamentally change the economics of our economy. But it has to be the right move anyway. And, you know, the city's job in this, if it does move forward, we have to provide housing, infrastructure for the workers. It's really a county issue. I would like to see some workshops moving forward with the county on the, you know, information, what kind of information, you know, that's needed and what we're looking for. But, you know, there's so many, the energy usage moving forward, and this is where nuclear is coming into play now. Data centers, they're looking at having their own reactors because they need so much power and uninterrupted power. And so nuclear seems to be, you know, the green energy of the future. And recycling of spent material is certainly something that is happening other parts of the world. And that's potentially could go along with our facility. So Very interesting stuff, and, you know, Peter did a real good job of recapping that. So with that said, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Looper made a motion to adjourn, second by Councilwoman Kemp. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?